Good morning and welcome back to the Essay Desk. This is episode 43, and today we are sitting with a line that looks simple on first reading and gets more uncomfortable the longer you sit with it. It is about why the things we call permanent, a habit, an institution, an old idea of ourselves, are so often held together by nothing more than fear of losing them. This theme, change and impermanence, has genuinely appeared in past essay papers, and it rewards exactly the kind of layered, honest thinking we are going to build together in the next few minutes. Here is today's topic, in the bare, aphoristic voice the essay paper now prefers. Nothing keeps its shape except the fear of losing it. It sits in the family of change, time, and impermanence, a theme that has shown up in recent papers and remains a stable, dependable favorite of the examiner, especially as climate shocks and rapid technology change make the question of who adapts and who resists more urgent every year. Decoding always starts with the same question. What is this line quietly assuming, and where does it start to hurt? Here, the hidden assumption is that permanence equals strength. The line challenges that assumption directly and says most permanence is just fear in disguise. So the real tension is not between change and stability as two neutral options. It is between renewal, which keeps a thing alive, and fear, which merely keeps a thing looking the same while it quietly dies inside. Once you have the tension, compress it into one sentence you can defend for 1100 words without wobbling. Something like this. Permanence without renewal is fear wearing the mask of strength, and wisdom lies in the courage to keep choosing your shape rather than simply keeping it. Notice, this thesis does not reject permanence outright. It draws a line between the permanence that is alive and the permanence that is merely afraid. And that distinction is what will let you argue both sides honestly later. A topic like this can sprawl in every direction, so you choose only the dimensions that build on each other. Start close to the reader, with the psychological cost of defending an identity that has already changed underneath us. Then widen to history, where empires and even our own economy clung to old shapes long after they had stopped working. Move next to ecology, where fear of accepting a changed climate delays the very adaptation that would save lives. And then to economics, where low-risk appetite quietly starves innovation. Each dimension should answer a question the one before it raised. Do not let the argument run away with itself. The strongest objection here is real. Some things should never change just because change is fashionable. Values like truth or human dignity, for instance. Grant that fully, then resolve it with a distinction between permanence that is rigid because it is afraid and permanence that is faithful to a value even while its form evolves. That resolution is what separates an essay that merely lists ideas from one that actually thinks. Every dimension needs an anchor, something real that the reader can picture, not just your own opinion stated twice. The philosopher Heraclitus is remembered for saying, that no one steps into the same river twice, because both the river and the person have already moved on. Use that as your psychological anchor. For the economic dimension, India's research spending has stayed near 0.6% of national income for years. A genuine, sourced number you can interpret as fear dressed up as prudence. And when a private company called Skyroot placed India's first privately built rocket in orbit this year, that is a real, concrete image of courage overriding an old assumption. Always drop the fact, then immediately explain what it means for your argument. This is the single highest value skill in the whole essay, and it is worth slowing down for. Never open with a dictionary definition or a tired, overused opening line. Open instead with something the reader can see. For instance, placing a fossil beside a living fern frond and noticing that the fossil, not the fern, is the one that is actually dead. Carry that same image all the way to your final paragraph, so the conclusion feels like a return, not a random new thought. And close on a task for the reader or the nation to carry forward, never on a flat summary of what you already said. That single choice, a callback instead of a recap, is often the difference between a good script and a memorable one. Here is one opening line you could build on. Lay a fossil and a fern frond side by side and ask which one is truly alive. And here is a closing line in the same spirit. The task is not to fear our own impermanence, but to decide which of our shapes are alive enough to keep growing, and which are merely old fears mistaken for foundations. Adapt these in your own words. Never copy them directly into an exam. Let us bring it together. Decode the topic to find what it is really claiming and where the tension lives. Fix one thesis and refuse to abandon it for 1100 words. Build your dimensions so each one answers a question the last one raised, and anchor every single one in something real, sourced, and interpreted. Finally, open with an image or a scene, never a definition, and close with a vision that returns to that opening rather than simply summarizing the essay you just wrote. That is today's masterclass. Go and practice this decoding on a topic of your own before you sleep tonight, because the method matters far more than any single example. To everyone grinding through another long evening of preparation after a full day's work, this small daily habit of thinking in public, even just to yourself, adds up in ways you will not see until results day. If you would like the full written brief, 2 complete model essays every issue with the examiner's own margin notes, drop your email in the comments or simply write